Welcome, everyone, to the southeast corner. No, southwest corner. If there isn't a style here, I'm going to go crazy. There is. I needed a machete to get through that. That was a trail. It's funny.
I can't click. Oh, that's better. Oh.
So I intend to do the same. It literally is just a couple of 100 yards, but I'm just waiting for something to appear over the top of that hill.
We're both barefooted today.
So,
I like to keep you up to date on Dan's footwear, and we're both barefooted, just so you know.
Ignore the camera.
Oh, okay.
Except don't steal it.
Oh, look at that blackbird. I love blackbirds.
They're always so happy.
Oh, I won't tell you what he just did on our drive.
Welcome, everybody, to the Bakery Bears video show featuring a sparkling brand new walk in the moors.
Lovely.
Oh yes, and this time it's very special, and I shall tell you why. Because we're travelling the furthest south in the moors that we ever have before.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We've always been focused on the northern side.
North, yeah.
And this time we're going to literally as far south as you can go on the moors. It's very exciting.
What does it turn into after that? The Dales? No.
No, it turns into the Vale of York.
Oh, right.
You're straight into the very flat part.
Very flat. Dan's favourite.
It's not. It totally did me in.
Basically a massive floodplain, isn't it?
Yes.
Which is what it is.
It was. And it used to do me in when I was young, because all the sort of pollen used to drop and it would all sort of congregate. And York actually is famous for having really bad air quality, just because it's such a small medieval city with lots of small streets that, you know, the sort of fumes and things, they all sort of build up.
Not much airflow, because it's low down as well.
The other thing as well that you could always smell in York, and I don't know if it's changed, and I mean, it didn't just smell of this, it absolutely stank of this, was sugar beet.
Ah, from the
factories.
Chocolate factories,
yes,
yeah.
Yes, I mean, it literally...
is Roundtree still there?
Well, I think they've all been bought out.
Terry's, is it Terry's now?
I don't even think Terry's... No.
Nestle.
Terry's
I'm just
was there.
randomly saying chocolate names now.
Terry's was there, totally separate to Roundtree's, which was also there.
Yeah.
Nestle bought Roundtree's.
Right.
And, I mean, I'm not really sure...
I was never
and Terry's got bought
Nestle
by
chocolate.
That company beginning with an M. It's a weird named company.
Oh, right.
Because they're the people who now make the terrible chocolate oranges. Yeah, where they've taken out, like, 3/4 of the chocolate's gone. Oh yes, because now we've made it look like an orange. But it's not an orange. No. It's a piece of chocolate. Just give it to me like it used to be. It was gorgeous.
I know.
It was delicious chocolate.
Change things.
But this is a landscape which is... It's totally different to anything that we've seen in the moors before because of where it is, because it's so much further south. And this is a place which has been inspiring my family for generations. My mum first visited there 65 years ago. She loved it so much. She then took her family back there, which was me and my brothers. And then subsequently we've gone back to this place.
We have.
But I've never walked there before. And it's all to come later on in the show. And it's an absolute corker.
Watch out for the flies, everyone.
Well... I was just about to say, I decided in the course of this walk for you to do a little test. Because it's not an urban myth. I think it started out as an urban myth and then it became factual. That Avon Skin So Soft keeps the flies away. So what
Bugs, not just flies, biting things, basically.
So what I thought I would do is, I thought that I would spray part of my body in Skin So Soft. And I would leave part of my body completely free of Skin So Soft, and we would see what happened. Well, I can tell you categorically, Skin So Soft works. Yeah. Because my legs were sprayed, my body was not. This became dinner party food.
Yeah. But the reason, I mean, you did your arms, didn't you? Because they were exposed.
No. I put those bracelets on my arms.
Yeah, if you see in the video, Dan's got these bracelets on, and they're like, I can't remember what they're called, but basically they're immersed in the lemon scented citronella, And they really smell strong, don't
Yes.
they, of it? And
Yes.
we used them last year on holiday and they work really well. So you always put those on.
So I stuck one
and
on each arm.
They do work.
Completely bare arm on walk.
Yeah.
Not one bite.
No. But where you were covered up with a T-shirt...
Yes. Covered.
Poor man. I mean, you were itching so bad.
Now, the best part about filming a show like this is there was always a chance, perhaps, we would catch one of these flies in the act. And we did. Take a look at this. Yes, that's the point where I got bitten
That one.
on my face. Was there 3 on my face? Or
Two.
Two on
You
my
had
face.
2 on your face.
Yeah. It was marvellous.
I don't know what they were. They did look like flies, but I mean, flies don't bite, do they? So there must have been some kind of fly-looking bug.
It's a mystery.
Yeah.
Speaking of mysteries, as you know, we do like a bit of Poirot in this house.
We do.
And in the course of our lives together, we have had many mysteries which we have sought to solve. One that springs to mind is the mystery of how much is an actual recommended serving of tomato ketchup.
We have done that.
So Kay got
Yes.
the scales out, got a small, and squirted out the recommended
I get
serving.
annoyed when producers of products dictate to me how much I should have as a serving.
Yes.
It really winds me up.
So, I'm in the shops the other day and I buy some yogurts, some of Kay's favourite yogurts. They're Activia Gut Health.
Yeah.
And I bring them home. And I knew straight away actually when I picked them up that the packaging had changed.
Yeah.
Bring them home, get them out, and held on to this yogurt, and I thought, that feels light. So I come downstairs. Of all the things I did not expect to see on my way into the kitchen yesterday evening, I walk into the kitchen and there's Kay with one of the old yogurts,
I was
one of the
weighing
new
them.
yogurts. She was weighing
I
them.
was weighing them because, you know, it really annoys me, right? They'll change something and say, oh, we've done it for this reason. And that's what they said. They said they've done it because now all of the
Completely
packaging
recyclable.
is completely recyclable.
Which is commendable.
Brilliant.
What
of
isn't
course,
commendable is...
in the process of it, well, the new one was lighter.
So
It was lighter in weight. So of
so
course,
the mystery continues.
But then I said, well, actually, no, let's give them credit. It might not be that there's less yoghurt. It could just be that the packaging weighs less.
So what do you think we had to do?
So when I'd finished eating it, we then proceeded to wash out the packaging.
Yes.
And then you had one of them this morning.
One of the old
One of
ones.
the old ones. So you washed out the packaging and
Yes.
then we weighed the pots.
And guess what?
It is lighter. The new one is lighter.
The new one has less yoghurt in
It must
than the old
have
one.
less yoghurt because the thing as a whole is, you know, we worked it out. It is a few grams lighter. You know, a few grams you might think, oh well, that doesn't matter. But hang on a minute, it's the same price.
Yes, yes.
So who's winning in this? Who's winning? I know, brilliant, the planet's winning because it's
Oh, yes.
recyclable and that's fabulous.
But why can't the
But
planet
I want
win?
my yoghurt
and
back.
why can't I have my 3 grams of yoghurt back that you've stolen?
And the rhubarb yoghurt I had last night didn't seem as thick as it normally does.
Let's see what happens later. Speaking of mysteries, we're slap bang in the sort of we're slap bang. We're actually after the period of mock GCSE exams
Yes.
for our daughter Bryony, and the results are coming in.
Yes.
The problem is
Trickling in at the moment. We don't understand
We can't
them.
work out what the results are.
We've never understood them. You know, in our day, right, you take an...
Do you know what's even funnier though?
Bryony
Our daughter doesn't even understand
Bryony's
them.
trying to explain it to us, and she doesn't understand it either. You know, it's completely useless, this system they use. In our day, right, you took an exam and you got a percentage.
And then next to the percentage,
You got a grade.
yeah,
Because that percentage equated to a grade.
A, B, C, D, E, F, or U.
You, gosh, that was a bad one to get, wasn't it?
A friend of mine once got a U. Well, he wasn't really a friend of mine. And the reason why he got a U was, I remember that we came into the class.
And that just means unclassified or something, doesn't it? It means lower than an F.
It means we couldn't mark it.
Yeah.
Back then, you got 1 mark for spelling your name right.
He spelt his name wrong.
He spelt his own name wrong. So he got a U. His name was Stuart Umpleby, and he put Stuart Umpleb. Stuart, if you're out there and watching this,
Stuart,
I hope you're now CEO of some global corporation.
Absolutely.
Maybe he's in charge of Activia. Give us our yogurts back.
But yeah, this system now, it's like so she comes home, doesn't she, and said, oh, in maths I got this, or in art I got this.
Yeah.
And we're like, right, okay, what?
Tell us, is that good?
And she just went, oh, it's good. I said, all right, brilliant. Right, okay. But what else can you say? What?
It's so frustrating.
How can you work with that as a parent, you know? How can you work with that and say, right, okay, you know, if for example, she'd come home and she'd said, oh, I got a B, we'd be like, right, great. We know what that means. We know that it's really good, but
you can do better.
But you can do better.
Yeah.
I don't know whether, what did she say in art she was? I don't know, 5A or something. I don't know whether that's good, because then you said to her, well, how high does it go? And
in some subjects, it goes to 6.
In some, it goes like.
In others, it goes higher.
It goes higher, because she said one of her friends in art got a 7A or something. I said, well, right, okay.
But in maths, it only goes up to a 6.
Yeah.
But in textiles and art, it goes up, I think, to an 8.
Oh, I don't. This is what we mean, right? It's just so confusing as a pupil and as a parent.
We've decided that we need to sign up for some university course.
I think we do in understanding your child's reports at school, because I don't know why they changed it from a really simple and straightforward system that everybody understood to
back in the 1990s.
Yeah, to now this.
Everybody knew where they stood.
Absolutely, you did.
Speaking of the 90s. This house is trapped in the 1990s.
Is it?
Yes, because somebody's been watching Party of 5.
This is brilliant, right? Back in the 90s, I watched this series, and I'm sure a lot of you will know it, called Party of 5. It's got Matthew Fox, Scott Wolf, Neve Campbell, Lacey, I can't say her surname, Chabert, I'm not sure. But anyway,
Isn't that a character from Les Miserables?
Yeah. I loved it, and I watched it all when it was on. It was like, I think it started in 94. And then recently, me and Bryony have been watching Charmed, which is another series from sort of back a little bit. It's not as early as that, I don't think.
It will be the 90s.
Right.
But not as early
as that. I don't think it's as early as that. But anyway, the other day I didn't have anything to watch, and I looked on... Where did it come up originally? Oh, I was on Channel 4 watching something, their catch-up thing, and I saw that all of the Party of 5s are on the Channel 4 catch-up thing. Actually, I don't know if it's all of them. I'll take that back. It said Party of 5 binge watch now or whatever. I was like, oh, brilliant. I'm going to start watching that from the beginning. And I did, and then it dawned on me that I thought, oh, I think Bryony would really like this. You know, it's teenagers and teenage angst going on, and so I thought, oh, she'll really like that. So we started watching it on the big telly on the Channel 4 on-demand thing, but it's got adverts, and I'm sorry, but I just couldn't deal with the adverts. They're so frequent, and they're like 5 minutes every time. So I had a look around, and you can actually buy the box sets on Amazon Prime. So that's what I did. I think it was like £10 or something for a season. So I bought it, and we've been watching it, and she absolutely loves it. If you've got a teenager who you think would like that sort of thing, then I would really recommend it. And of course, she's madly fallen in love with Scott Wolf, who is incredibly cute, I've got to say. And he's playing a 16-year-old, and I think at the time he was 24. We looked it up. But he plays a 16-year-old pretty well. It's just a great series, and it covers lots of sort of big life things and, relationships and all those kinds of things. And I just really enjoy it. I really love it. So definitely recommend it.
Lovely. That's enough waffle, because there's way too many lovely things to see.
Waffle.
I mean, if you're showing that first, are you showing that first?
Yes.
I'm glad you are, because it's exciting me greatly.
Oh.
It's gorgeous.
Well, thank you very much.
So I shall ask, so you can see it too. Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
I've actually got 3 brand new things this time.
Amazing.
How exciting is that?
I have not.
Well, that's okay.
I
don't always.
No.
It's just how it's fallen this time. But the first thing I'm working on is a pair of socks. Now, I've wanted to knit this pair of socks for, well over a year, I would say. First of all, my socks are in this lovely bag that I made, and this is a clue. I made this bag a while ago, and it's my little house bag. I bought this top fabric from Little Skein in the Big Wool. She produced bags in this fabric, it was a thicker fabric, but with this print, because this was designed for her specifically. And then at the end of the run, she sold some of the fabric off, and I got a bit of it. So I made my own little bag. So it's Little House on the Prairie. And this has got a couple of badges that were sent to me from friends. I've got a lovely little house badge and then a Wonder Woman badge from a friend. So it's in this lovely bag because it's relevant to the project, and I do like tying up bags with projects if I can do that. Now, it's about 4 years ago, I put out a pattern which has remained really popular called the Prairie Socks. And for the past sort of year or so, I've really wanted to re-knit the socks and just freshen up the pattern. Because like I say, it's been out there 4 years, and what's it called? The sort of format, the software, the thing I typed it onto, the pattern thing.
Oh, I like that.
It was different then. I used a different software or whatever it's called. And I just think what I use now is much cleaner and slicker, and
we've just learnt a lot.
I've just learnt a lot, you know, so I think it's really good to refresh these things. So I probably a couple of months ago, I dyed up some yarn to knit them because I spent quite some time looking around for the perfect colour yarn to use. I had a colour in mind that I wanted to use for them, and I bought a few skeins actually from different places, and just none of them were quite right. So in the end I thought, right, I'm just going to dye some. So that colourway's been sat in my stash for a couple of months, just waiting for me to have the time slot, if you like, for me to knit up another pair, and I'm finally doing it, and I'm thrilled. And I've finished a sock, and I'm on the second one. So here is the finished sock.
Wow.
And I just love this colour. The colour I was after, you know, when you think of a prairie in America, I've never been. I would love to go. I was talking to Dan yesterday, actually. At some point, I would love to do a trip to America and visit all of the little house places. The colour that I wanted was this sort of green, but with hints of gold in there. Because I think when you see a prairie, or certainly when I've seen a prairie with the grasses blowing, there's a lot of green in there. But then if it's sort of through the summer a little bit, you do get a lot of golds in there as well. So that's the sort of colour I wanted, and I'm really pleased with how it came out. So it is that green, but can you see there's lots of gold in there. So I've finished this one sock, knit obviously exactly to pattern. So it's got a 2x2 rib, and then you go into the lovely stitch pattern. And this stitch pattern reminded me of wheat fields. Do you know the little heads of wheat? That's why I called them prairie socks. It's got an eye of partridge heel flap and turn. This is a French turn. And then it's got what I now call cottage toe. So it's the one where we decrease at either point to produce a nice rounded toe. It's not as rounded as my umbrella toe. It's more like a sort of rounded wedge. I could take it off and show you, couldn't I? Because it's hard to tell the sort of roundness when it's on that way. It is a really nice rounded toe. These haven't been blocked yet, but you can see that it's a really nice sort of wedge rounded toe. So I've finished one and I've started the other. And what I'm going to do is, when I've finished the second one, is I've already actually gone through the pattern and I've cleaned it up. When I say cleaned it up, I mean just brought it up to the level that I now write patterns at. Because, you know, it's 4 years ago and I've learnt a lot since then, and I write in a slightly different way. So I wanted to bring it in line with all of my other patterns. So I've done that, and now I just need to finish the second sock, and then I'll photograph them in a sort of prairie way. I've got an idea on how I want to do that. And then I will refresh the pattern. So what that means is that I basically replace the PDFs that are out there already. So on Ravelry and on Lovecrafts, I'll just replace the PDF with this new one. Now, if you've ever purchased the pattern on Ravelry, What I'll also do is I will send an update out to everyone who's ever purchased it on Ravelry, so you will get the new refreshed pattern as well. I can't do that on Lovecraft, sadly, it doesn't have that facility, but certainly I think I would say most people who have bought this in the past have purchased it via Ravelry. So this is my second one. I've just done the rib and I'm just into the leg. I only cast this on yesterday, so I'm going to work through that, like I said, get it finished. But what I'm then going to do, because I've used a colourway which, you know, I don't sell my yarn, as you know, anymore. The yarn that I dye I don't actually sell. But what I'm going to do when I redo this pattern, when I sort of relaunch it, I'm going to do a My Favourite Colourways and I'm going to dye up this colour. So I'm going to show you how I created this colour, so that then if you want to, you can dye some up for yourself and knit yourself a pair using the exact colourway. So I was really happy when I thought of that. I thought, oh, you know, that's what I'll do, because people can't buy this yarn, I know that. But I think putting out details of how to dye this up yourself, it enhances the relaunch for me and makes it more sort of inclusive. You can all sort of have a go at dyeing your own version. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. You obviously don't have to do that. You can use whatever yarn you want. You know, one of the beauties of this pattern, there's lots and lots and lots of projects on Ravelry, if you want to go and have a look, is I think it works really. I can't think of a yarn where it wouldn't work. It's fabulous in self-striping. It looks great. I've seen it in lots of times in self-striping, and I think I've even done it in self-striping as well. I must have knit these socks 3-4 times, maybe more. So yeah, I think it just would work with any yarn at all. And then what I've got here, these are the original prairie socks.
Wow.
So this is the original pair that's on the pattern.
What yarn is that?
This is Stranded Dye Works. You can have that now, darling, and then I'll just hold up the sock. This is Stranded Dye Works in a colourway called Nougat. And, you know, they've fared really well. Now, this base had cashmere in it, so can you see the fluffing? Oh, you can. Look at that. It's reality. This is what happens to your socks if they've got cashmere in and they're a bit grubby on the bottom. These have been worn and worn and worn by Bryony, and they've been through the washer many, many, many times. There's no holes at all, so they've fared really well. They're a bit felty on the bottom and quite pilly, but you've got to expect that where there's cashmere in. But on the whole, I think they've fared pretty well for 4 years wear, and I think that's a nice thing to see, isn't it? So definitely a good yarn, and the dye job I think was brilliant. The colours are still quite vivid. So that's my prairie socks.
They're lovely.
Yeah, I'm going to carry on with the second one.
I can't wait to see this on My Favourite Colourways.
Yeah, and
it's gorgeous.
I didn't think I'd written down the recipe, but then I was dyeing something else up the other day and it's there, it's in my book, so I was like, oh, thank goodness, I can do, because I really wanted to dye it up, and then I thought, oh, I don't think I wrote it down. I think I just dyed it on a whim. I did, so yay.
I mean, there's so many colours in there. And
yeah, there is quite a lot of colours in there, I think. There's more than the looks sort of at a distance. It just reads sort of green.
You will see later in today's show when we go walking in the moors, I'm walking through some fields.
I did see that. I noticed it and it reminded me of this, because it is green, because you do get that sort of fresh green, don't you? But then you also get the golds as well, because it's such a mix of grasses and plants that are in there.
What's so unbelievable is one of the plants that I focused on when we were out on the walk was some grass. It was,
I saw that.
And you'll see it later on in the show, and when you see that, we do a pan across and you'll just see all these colours. I mean, it's just perfect.
And it was a joy to knit. The base I've used is the one I normally dye on. It's 80-20, isn't it? The Superwash Superfine Merino.
Do you know what I absolutely love? I absolutely love the plain knits in between, the contrast between the...
Yeah. It's a really, you know, relaxing and straightforward design. But, you know, for me, they're usually the best.
I wish I enjoyed knitting textured socks.
I know. But
a jumper in this. And I'm all yours.
Yeah, I know. But, you know, I know a lot of people do enjoy a really nice textured sock that can be used with lots of different yarns, and this is definitely a winner.
I shall make a bold statement.
Yes.
I think more people enjoy textured socks.
I would say so, yeah.
Than enjoy...
Yeah, just a simple repeat that you can remember. But, you know, I knit this sock way quicker than I would knit a plain stocking stitch sock, because having that repeat really spurs me on. You know, instead of knitting 2 rounds on a plain sock, I might knit 4 or 6 on this, because you want to just do another repeat and another repeat. It's like that. So yeah, so I'm really enjoying those, and I'll, you know, as soon as they're all done and I've relaunched the pattern, I will let you know.
That's great.
Sorry, Dan Jones.
Yes.
What's on your lovely needle?
That was great. It's the flurry socks. Woohoo! It's getting me in the Christmas vibes.
Oh, yeah.
Knitting with the gorgeous...
And it's July. Christmas in July.
Yes, of course.
Although they're winter themed, they're not Christmas themed, but, you know, you do associate snow with Christmas.
So it's the gorgeous flurry socks. And many of you were very quick to point out, the last time I showed this, that this here has a 1x1 twisted rib. And this has a 2x2 twisted rib. But I meant to do this. I decided that I wanted to compare the 1x1 twisted rib on that sock with the juxtaposition of the 2x2 twisted rib.
Another excellent word.
Just to see if it would go with the pattern.
He messed up.
And what it would look like. You may like to think that. Thank goodness. You may like to think that, but what?
I may like to think that.
Is that bad English?
No, you're just wrong. You just messed up.
Well, whatever.
But to your credit, you said I'll rip it out and start again. I said don't do that. It's fine.
Well, it does have a look. I think it looks fine.
Well, it's fine. But the reason I did it, this is a great demonstration.
Yes. Shall I take it off?
Because the reason I didn't use a 2x2 rib can be seen clearly on the 2x2 rib. So,
this is the reason why I did it. Because I wanted to give Kay the opportunity to show you why you don't use a 2x2 twisted rib.
This is the rib that's in the pattern, so it's 1x1. And can you see the rib flows really nicely into the pattern?
Yes.
So where the pearls start here, it flows really nicely.
Yes.
Okay. The 2x2 doesn't do that. One side sort of encroaches onto, can you see here? It doesn't quite match up. So that's why I didn't use a 2x2 rib. So there is usually a reason, you know, why I've used a particular rib.
I would say with your designs, it's more than usually. There's always a reason.
I always think about the rib. I don't just...
Everything.
I don't just go, you know, cast on
I'll just do this.
2x2 rib and now start the pattern. I never do that.
I'll just do a bit of this.
When I come up with the design, I sort of chart it out, and then underneath I will have a chart of the different ribs, and I will see if they line up. And sometimes I've had to create a really specific rib.
I love those.
To line up with them. That's like on the Nutkin. The Nutkin socks have got a very particular
They
rib.
do.
Yeah, and there's a couple of others I think as well.
Yes, I love that.
Where I've designed a particular rib to fit in.
I love a weird rib.
I don't say it's weird.
Well, it's just different.
Yeah.
It's weird because, you know, it's not what we're used to.
That looked nice on the blocker, and you whipped it off. I'm gonna.
Yeah, it looks okay. I mean, look.
What?
I've
what
never
are you
knitted.
say? It looks brilliant.
I've never knitted with 2.5mm needles before.
Okay.
This is my first time.
Looks great.
I've been taking my time to try and learn and try and get used to the additional dexterity that you need, and I won't lie, it's been tricky, but the difference between this sock and this sock is vast. Yes, I messed up the rib, but the actual knitting of the sock is so much more enjoyable and straightforward for me now. And my challenge always was the thinness of the needle. I couldn't do this with circular ones. I'd really struggle.
You don't like magic loop anyway, do you?
No, but I mean, I used the wrong English.
Circular ones.
I couldn't do this with a round needle.
Oh. The square needles is what you mean.
These are
right.
the lovely Nipro Cubics, of which I've done a review of.
Yes.
Yes, it came out quite recently, and for some reason we seem to make people laugh on the review. I can't quite remember why.
Oh, really? It's probably my camera work.
Or my cluelessness when it comes to knitting.
Cluelessness. That's a good word.
When it comes to knitting terminology. It's not my strong point. Or I just don't have confidence in my knowledge.
Well, you should, and it's not necessarily... what's that?
Well, show everyone. You can't show me.
I think it's maybe just a split stitch or something. Can you see a little knobbly thing going on here? I'm not sure what that is. I think it's maybe just split a stitch or something.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's what you've done.
I feel like I'm doing my GCSEs. What do you give me?
On these?
A 6C.
Oh, I don't... What, you mean...
I don't want a grade.
Oh, I couldn't give you one of the modern things.
Well, just make one up and then a 4D.
I don't know what that means.
Well, yeah, no one does.
I would probably give you these...
I don't want one.
Okay, I'm not going to grade them.
No, thanks.
It's a bit intimidating, that, isn't it, if I grade them? I was going to give you a good grade.
See me afterwards. Yeah. Do you remember when you used to get your book back from the teacher after you've done your homework? And it would say, see me on it.
No.
Because you never had that.
No.
I think I might have only had that once or twice.
I always did my homework.
I always did my homework.
Right. I never got to see me.
I only once didn't do my homework. And I made up a great excuse as to why I hadn't.
Did you? What did you say?
It was physics.
Oh.
And I told my physics teacher the book was in my mum's car that was parked down by the River Ouse, that was flooded and we couldn't get to the car.
Did it wash?
Well, the River Ouse was flooded.
Oh, right, okay. But did he believe you?
Well, how could he not?
I suppose.
Without physically going down.
Right.
I didn't get a very good report that year.
No. He probably knew you were blagging him.
In fact, we may have spoken about this in the history of the Bakery Bears before, but this is the report which was framed and on my mum's wall for many years.
Because it was so bad.
Yes, because at the bottom of the report, he'd written shameful and underlined it. The brilliant...
I mean, you laugh, but you'd be devastated, wouldn't you?
Well, the brilliant thing was...
I would, if a kid of mine had got...
No, the brilliant thing was I got away with it. And the reason why I got away with it was the rest of my report was amazing.
Oh, right.
And one of my reports, my geography report, was so amazing. It was sort of embarrassing. It was so amazing.
That's so funny. I love geography. It's my favourite.
My mum got the two reports and put them in a frame and put them on the wall together.
But that's a brilliant demonstration, isn't it, of just kids being, more inclined for certain subjects than others.
Well, what I found was when I was probably 14 at this stage. It was probably year 10.
Right.
So fourth year. Mm. And that was the year when I knew what I enjoyed and what I wanted to do, and I knew what I didn't enjoy. And if I don't enjoy something, I just don't do it.
Yeah, it is. Or if I don't see
the purpose of it.
Yeah, I know.
And I couldn't see the purpose of physics in my life.
Yeah, that's the age, isn't it, where you do start questioning and saying, why am I even doing this? I'm not interested in this subject. I'm not going to be...
It's not going to be part of my life.
No, it's not going to be part of my life. I mean, you're old enough to know that it's not something you're going to take forward, but yet you've really got to work hard at it to produce a good result. And that is really difficult, I think, to get a kid to sort of understand, well, it's a good lesson because some things in life you're not going to enjoy.
No.
But at the end of the day, you've still got to do your best.
You do. Yeah. You do, and I didn't.
But I'm with you all the way with physics. Although Bryony seems very adept in the sciences, which...
is a bit of a shocker.
Chemistry in particular, she seems to...
Well, and biology.
And biology, yeah.
And physics, she doesn't seem to be doing bad.
Seems to be all of the sciences, which is really surprising because she's very much more arty, I would say.
Yeah. But look, that's my lovely flurry sock.
Yes.
Yarn dyed by Kay.
Yes.
Contrasting cuffs. You've never seen that before, have you?
contrasting, you
Yes.
don't mean that.
I do.
Oh, right. Right.
They're
okay.
contrasting cuffs.
Right.
Ha ha!
All right. It's been clever or not.
And without further ado, I shall put these away and let's find out
Well, I
what
think
else.
they're great. I think you're doing a brilliant job with those, darling. So there you go. And I did try that one on, and it fit.
Ish.
It fit okay.
If it is.
It's the cast on. I've got thick ankles. I always think I have anyway. So I always struggle with your cast on because it is still a little bit tight. But apart from that,
Well, I need to do
you know
a different
what?
one.
I thought about that. I did think about that.
Yeah.
And why don't you cast on with a bigger needle?
Okay.
And then
Rib with a
carry
different
along?
needle.
Well, you could do the rib with a... Yes, brilliant idea. Do the rib with a bigger needle.
Boom.
And then that's exactly what you should do. The next lovely project I've got is in another bag that I made. Is the third one? No, the third one's not. But this bag... Oh, I made that one. Oh, and update on the silk taffeta from last episode. I have cut it out now. Are you excited?
Yeah.
I've cut it out and I've got all of the pieces ready. However, when I went to my zip stash, which is not very big, I didn't have a zip long enough because I'm making a big bag, like a blanket bag, which is sort of about this big, I suppose. I didn't have a zip long enough, so I ordered a few from Wool Warehouse because I wasn't sure what colour I wanted, and they've come now. And I also did a little test swatch. I got a scrap of the silk taffeta after I'd cut it out, and I tried it with the fusible fleece. It was fine. I just had it on the silk setting on my iron and no steam at all, and didn't hold it down very long on the fabric, and it stuck and it looks fine. So I am going to interface it. So I've got all the pieces cut out and ready, and I'm hoping actually to get that done maybe this afternoon. So I'll have that and show you hopefully next time. But yeah, this bag I made quite a few years ago, I think now. I can't think how many years ago. I had a sudden urge to make a bag using Harris tweed. Oh, it's such amazing fabric, you know, and all of Harris tweed is made on the Isle of Harris. Obviously, well, I say obviously, that's not obvious these days, is it? Because that's not always the case. But this is one of those products that it has to come from that area. And I think largely is still produced in sort of crofts. You know, people have weaving looms in their house and they weave in their house. I think a lot of it is produced in that way, which I think is brilliant. So I got these two, this lovely pink on the bottom and then this tartan. And when you order it, they send you some of their lovely little badges. So I sewed this on as well. And inside I used Liberty, and then I adorned it with a lovely hand-knitted heart. And this is one of my favourite yarns. It's the Blacker Falklands Islands, the Blacker Swan in DK, and I just thought it was lovely. I love this yarn. Controversially, with the, can you see the Liberty? And I'm saying controversially because I know it's really popular. I use cotton lawn, and I never even held cotton lawn at the time that I bought this. And I was really surprised how light it was. If you don't know, cotton lawn it's 100% cotton, but it's made with a much finer thread and a higher count. So it means it's very drapey and very light. And I think it's brilliant for clothing. I can imagine summer dresses and blouses and things like that. It'd be absolutely gorgeous. But for sewing for like bags, I'm not a massive fan because it's very lightweight, and I prefer something a bit more a bit heavier. I've used Liberty quilting cotton, and I love that. So that's the way for me with Liberty. In this lovely bag, I've got a project that I've never shown you, and it's actually nearly finished. And this is something that I started. There's a paracetamol in there. I've randomly got a paracetamol in that bag. It must have fallen off my bedside table. Oh, keep that for later.
As a treat.
As a treat of that paracetamol. But I started this a few weeks ago. I wanted a project for my bedtime knitting, and I just wanted something that was kind of round and round simple, but that kept my interest a little bit. So I created this cowl pattern. Now I've almost finished it because I've kept this sort of, I wanted it to be something that where there was no pressure, it was just for me, and you know, I look forward to, and I still look forward to working on it every single night. And I've got through it actually much quicker than I thought I would. But I designed this myself. I'll show you what it looks like and then I'll explain. So this is where I'm up to. Oh, isn't it lovely?
Yeah.
It is quite a long cowl. I do like my cowls to be quite long because I like them to sort of concertina down and then be quite nice around your neck. It's fingering weight yarn, but I do like them to be quite long. So I've got, as you can see, I've got a little rainbow of colours going on. Now, as a rule, I don't dislike rainbows, but it's not something that I normally gravitate towards. However, I had these yarns, I'd bought them recently, and just by chance they created this really nice pastel-y sort of pretty rainbow. And I thought, well, I'm going to use those. So the main colour is this gorgeous, gorgeous colour. Oh, is that not the most beautiful sort of nutmeggy autumnal colour? It's just gorgeous. And this is a skein from Eden Cottage yarns, and its colourway is called Marigold, and it's in the Hayton 4-ply, which is, so it's an 80-10-10. You've got 80% merino, 10 cashmere, 10 nylon, and it's lovely and plump. So that's the main colour that I've got. And then the rainbow of colours actually...
Is that a fingering?
It's a fingering weight, but it's really plump.
Right.
You only get 350 metres, 380 yards per 100 grams. So it is classed as a 4-ply fingering, but it is very much on the plumper side of a 4-ply. But it's worked fine together with the other base. But you could even, I think, knit it fairly sort of sport weightish, I think, if it was a pair of socks. It's lovely and plump. So that's the main colour. And then fairly recently I purchased a little mini skein bundle from Wild Rose Yarn, and this was a little mystery set. You got 10 gram mystery yarns, so I didn't know what I was going to get, but by chance 6 of them, and in fact I've got a 7th here because I wasn't sure if I was going to put this one in as well, but I chose not to because I thought it was too close to the purple that I have put in. But 6 of them made this little rainbow, and I've got just tiny little nuggets left of the... This is all I've got left of the rainbow colour. So these were 10 grams. So there might be 2 grams there. Maybe I used about 8 grams of each, something like that. But I'm almost finished now with the purple. I love this purple colour. It's like a sort of violet. It's sort of a violet-y purple. So that was the yarns that I had. And I thought, I'm going to knit a cowl with those. And at first I thought I would knit one of my Philosopher's cowls. But then I thought, no, I'm going to do something slightly different. So I decided to stripe them, but to make it a bit more interesting. So I did a really nice garter rib to start off with there. But to make it a bit more interesting with the stripes, I've added in a little bit of eyelet detail. You can see there, can't you? So each time I changed colour, I did those eyelets and then I did a pearl round. And I think that just breaks it up and gives it a little bit of interest. So I'm on that final colour now, the lovely purple at the top, and then I just need to do the ribbing at that end and I will have finished it. Now, as I was knitting this, the little eyelet things, which I just made up on a whim, but the little eyelet things, if I hold them, let me try and fold it over and then I'll hold it close so you can hopefully see. There you go. It reminded me of a little owl's face with the 2 eyes, and then the decrease in the middle looks like the beak.
Oh, yeah.
I think it does. So in my head I've just been calling this the owl cowl. My plan with this is to release it as a free pattern. And because I'm going to release it as a free pattern, I don't have an issue with it having the same name as several other patterns that were already out there. I'm going to put the in front of it because most of them just said owl cowl. So if I call it the owl cowl, it'll just be a bit easier to find if you're searching for it. So yeah, I'm going to finish this really soon. I've only got that top ribbing to do. I've already drafted out a pattern. And then, yeah, I'm going to, get it blocked and photographed, and I'm going to release this as a free pattern. And I've just loved this so much. And how fun are those stripes? I mean,
yes, cool.
It's just going to be so nice to wear, and I do have plans to make another one, which I might do straight away, because it's just the perfect, for me, perfect bedtime knitting. When I say bedtime knitting, I just mean end of day knitting. Do you know when you're a little bit tired but you want to do some knitting but you've just not got the brain to sort of concentrate too much? It's just plain knitting, apart from when you're changing colours. And when you're changing colours, that makes it a bit exciting. I'm like, oh, what's the next colour gonna look like? And it just worked out so nicely using 10 gram minis for the little contrasts and then a full skein for the main colour. So, you know, you could just go to your stash, you can pick out your favourite full skein that you want to use, go through your minis, pick out a bunch of minis and knit yourself up a lovely owl cowl. So I'm gonna finish that off, and then I will let you know when the pattern is out there for you to just go and download for free. And I'll put it on, as I do with all my patterns, I'll put it on Ravelry and Lovecrafts, so you can go to either of those two to download it if you want to knit up your own.
Speaking of cowls...
Oh, it's a cowl fest.
It's my lovely Colourwork cowl. And doesn't it look... I mean, look at the screen.
Ah, yes, I can see it.
It's marvellous.
Looks good.
It's gorgeous. I love this.
Yeah.
This is working out my Colourwork technique like nothing I've ever knitted before. Lovely thin yarn. It's fondant fibre. Something about Harry Potter's birthday.
No, it was Happy Christmas, Harry.
Merry Christmas, Harold. And then also that's the lovely stuff, isn't it?
Oh, merino yak, Regia
Yes.
merino yak.
Ooh,
yes.
It's marvellous.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Now, I had someone actually ask us, and I did reply to them, but they asked us about how this wears.
Right. Well, you've knit a pair of socks in it, and
Yes.
I've knit a pair of socks in it, and so far all is good. Been washed. It's not a pair that I wear a lot because it's one of my favourite pairs. It was the Whispers in the Walls sock pattern. So I don't wear those very often because I'd like to keep them nice. But so far, it's wearing really well.
Well, I knit a Whispers in the Walls in merino yak.
In
I also
a blue.
And I also knitted the Sherwood socks in a merino yak.
Right. Yeah.
And how have you found them for pilling?
I mean, they will pill a little bit. Mine are okay at the moment, but it will pill a little bit because the yak is it's a bit like, I suppose it's a bit like alpaca, isn't it, in that way with regards to pilling. Whenever a yarn is really soft, it's going to pill more. So you've just got to expect that, really. It's like cashmere and alpaca.
I think for me, it comes down to, if you want to knit with something lovely,
It's lovely.
if you want to knit with something which is going to produce a great finished object, if you want to knit with something that is going to do all those things and feel lovely on, so it becomes a special thing, then if you need to think, right, okay, if I wear this every day in a thick pair of walking shoes, these are probably not going to last as long as maybe if I was wearing a pair of opal socks.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about, you wouldn't wear a ball gown to the supermarket, would you?
No.
Although wouldn't it be fun if you did?
Wouldn't it?
Personally, I would never discard knitting with something
No.
if it wasn't going to wear as well as something which doesn't feel as soft, isn't as nice to knit with, but is going to produce you a hard wearing.
That's my point. For me, it's the experience of knitting with it. And that is worth more to me than thinking, all right, it's maybe not going to last as long as a pair of socks that's a bit more robust.
I suppose the other side of that thought process is, though, if you're thinking, I need a new pair of walking socks, then I'd perhaps use something different to
Use
this.
an opal or a regia.
Yes.
You know, if you wanted something that was really
Super hard wearing.
Yeah.
So
but,
this is a special thing.
yeah, but also, if
I don't imagine it's going to pill a lot in a cowl, though.
No, I don't think so. No, it's really just that friction of socks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where you probably will get a bit of pilling, but that wouldn't stop me using a yarn at all.
No. I cannot begin to tell you how much I'm enjoying this project. And I'm about to finish this shamrocky section. And then I'll be into another lot of these, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
And then some of these, and then this great ribbing.
Oh, yes.
This is a fancy ribbing.
Yeah, I've used that on something. I've used that on a different cowl. I can't remember which one it was.
Maybe it was the Philosophers.
It wasn't the Philosophers, I don't think.
Well, it's super fun. You know, I didn't really know what the ribbing was when I cast it on and started it. I just did what the pattern told me to do. And then when you see something sort of different, first of all, it's exciting because it's something different and you're expecting just boring old ribbing. But then also then when it produces something different with different textures, it's just marvellous. So it's my lovely cowl. I'm ploughing on with this. It's doing everything I need it to do. It's all about developing and upholding my colourwork technique. Looking forward to getting it finished for you for the autumn. What else is on your needles?
Well, the last thing I've got to show you today is in one of my favourite Eldenwood craft bags. I love this bag. This is a little project that was a request, actually.
Oh, yes.
So when
From Grandpa Steve
asked for something, can you believe it? And I was so taken aback that I thought, well, absolutely, I'm going to do that. A while ago, when did I put this pattern out? It might have been like 2018, I think. I put out a pattern, which I then subsequently refreshed the following year, I think. And it's called the Whippy Wash Mitt now. And I refreshed it because I found a new yarn that I thought would be brilliant for it. So I relaunched the pattern with that newer yarn. And when I did that, I knit up some samples and I sent a couple of the samples to your mum.
Yeah.
I did the large sample and the smaller one. And the larger one went to Steve, Grandpa Steve. And unbeknownst to me, he loves it and he's been using it ever since and talks about it and said, oh, it's brilliant.
Well, he's a big-time gardener, so this Whippy Wash Mitt has had some use. Yeah,
and he said he would love another one. So your mum asked, didn't she, recently, do you think Kay would make one for Christmas for Steve? And I thought, I'm not going to wait till Christmas. You know, who knows what's going to happen in life. If he wants another one, I'll make him, some more wash mitts. That's not a problem at all. But at the time, I couldn't remember the one that he got. I couldn't remember if I'd used the original yarn that I used or whether I'd used the new one. So I just thought, I'm going to do two and I'll do one of each. And then, it's covered, isn't it? So that's what I'm doing. So it's the Whippy Wash Mitt and I've finished one. This hasn't been washed at all. I don't really block these. All I do is I bung them in the washer and give them a wash on like 30 degrees and that effectively blocks them. But this is the one I've finished. So it's got a lovely little hanging loop here, which is an I-cord. And a nice bit of garter. And then you go into this lovely, it's based on a sort of linen stitch, but it's not a full linen stitch. And this is the large size. There's two sizes. So this is a large one, which is a nice roomy size. I mean, if I was using one, I'd go for the size down. But for a man, I think this is brilliant. And this is knit using the yarn I originally used, which is King Cowl bamboo cotton. I love this yarn. It's a 50-50 bamboo, viscose and cotton. And in 100 grams, you get 230 metres. So it's really generous, I think, that. And it's just lovely. It is a bit splitty. The nature of the yarn is that, I don't know if you can see, but it's like all cotton yarns, I think, really. Well, the other one I'm using is more twisted. But this one, I don't know if you can tell, but the strands are quite kind of
loose.
Yeah, a little bit loosely spun. So it can be a bit splitty, but I don't really have many problems at all. So I finished this one and it weighed 32 grams, the large size. So you could actually get 3 out of a ball of bamboo cotton. And I think this is about £6, something like that, I think. I think that's really good value as Christmas presents. So I finished that one and then I've just started another one in the newer yarn that I used, which is this cuteness. Oh, it's not going to show up. I mean, that's a little bit better.
It's good stuff, this. I remember when we found it.
Yeah.
Where were we? We were somewhere weird.
Well,
it was stacked somewhere.
No, that was a similar one. That was a Sirdar. version of this, and I didn't like that as much, and then I found this. This is by Rico.
Right.
It's called Rika Rumi, and it's DK, 100% cotton, and it comes in these little 25-gram balls. You get 57.5 metres.
That's DK.
That's DK.
That's unbelievable, because that looks just like that fingering weight you showed a moment ago, thickness.
All right. Well,
I mean, you said it was plump.
gosh, I think there's a knot in there, look. I'll have to be careful of that. There's a knot right in there. That's fine. So yeah, I used this, and this comes in solid colours, or you can get it in like a sort of speckly colour or a variegated. But you know, for Steve, I thought I'll go with plain. He's a bit of a man's man, so I'll go with plain. I'm saying that, he wears pink trousers sometimes, doesn't he? So I've started another one using this. Now, if you're knitting the smaller size that's in the pattern, you only need one of these. But the bigger one, you need two, so I've got two because I'm knitting the larger one. So I cast this one on yesterday. I finished that one and cast on another one straight away. I'm working at magic loop, but you could use double points if you wanted to. So I've just got another one cast on there. So I want to get this done fairly quick so I can send it to him. So you might not see these again, but if I've already posted them off, I'll make sure I take a photo so I can show you next time. Because I don't want to sort of wait. Once I've finished them, I want to send them to him.
He's not been able to wash himself properly.
He's still got the other one. I think what he really likes is that he can hang it in the shower, because their shower...
It's like a tomb.
Yeah, they live in a really old house. It's like parts of it are like...
16th century.
Yeah, so 1500s parts of it. So the low ceilings, beams... And their bathroom is quite a big bathroom, actually, as bathroom sizes go, because it wouldn't have originally been a bathroom, because they wouldn't have had them. But the shower is kind of in this little sort of alcove thing, isn't it? And the ceiling height is low.
Yeah.
So there's not much space in there, but he really likes that you can hang it on the...
That's right.
Shower knob.
On the hook.
On the... whatever it is, yeah. And it's a great little thing to just whip up. You know, they don't take long at all. And just lovely gifts, you know, for Christmas, birthdays. Nice bar of soap, and that's really nice. These are two of the original ones. This one is an original one in the bamboo cotton. This is the smaller size, so you can see it's more sort of smaller hand size. But this is an original one, and I've washed this a bazillion times through the washer, and it's still brilliant. And then this one was in the Rico. So this one's only a couple of years old, but again, you know, it looks great. The Rico, I think, is a bit thicker than the bamboo cotton, because this one did come out a bit bigger than the original one. But I think that's because the yarn's just a little bit thicker, that cotton yarn, than the bamboo. But they're both fared really well. I just throw them in the washer, totally fine, you know, hang them on the line, and they're perfect. So I'm working on that as well, and I want to get that finished, send it off to Grandpa Steve, and be in the good books for the next year.
Right, who's ready for another walk? It's time for us to head back to the North York Moors National Park on a walk that I've been looking forward to all series. There's some stunning streams, some gorgeous woodlands, and at the heart of this walk is the wonderful Byland Abbey. So I think it's time I shut up and we headed out and enjoyed another walk in the moors. Welcome everyone to a brand new season of walks. Over the next few months we'll be undertaking 5 hikes in the Yorkshire Dales and 5 hikes in the North York Moors. We're going to be walking through a landscape I've spent the last 35 years exploring, and I can't wait to share with you some of my favourite destinations and the stories that surround them. From mysterious castles to beautiful forests and long-forgotten villages, in this series we're going to undertake some wonderful adventures. But where are we heading today? Welcome everyone to the foot of Byland Moor in the southwest corner of the North York Moors National Park. This is the furthest south we ventured in walking the moors, and we're slap bang in the middle of the country where I cut my teeth walking when I was a lad. We're about an hour's drive from York, my hometown, and this was one of the destinations that my parents would bring me and my brothers when we were growing up. Now don't get me wrong, whilst I once knew this countryside pretty well, I've never been on the walk we're going to be undertaking today, and it's going to take in some absolutely spectacular sights. There's picturesque Yorkshire villages, there's some absolutely wonderful woodland, but there's one thing that I think is going to be the highlight of today's walk. Just take a look at this. That wonderful place is Byland Abbey, and it's the reason why we're here. And the story behind this walk really started about 65 years ago. My mum came here. She'd recently moved here from the south of England, and my mum came here on a school trip, and she was so captivated by something that she saw in Byland Abbey, she just had to stop and draw it immediately. And we'll actually look out for what she drew whilst we're on our walk today. Years later, my mum had a family, my family, and this became a favourite place for us to come for a family picnic. We'd arrive and my mum and set up the gorgeous picnic blanket with all the lovely things on it. My brothers and I would disappear off into the grounds of the Abbey to play hide and seek and all the other games that young boys play. We'd have a lovely family picnic and then we'd head off home suitably exhausted. But we never bothered to uncover the story behind this absolutely gorgeous part of the world. I'm so excited about today's walk because I'm going to put the wrong that I did all those years ago right today. Together, we're going to walk through this gorgeous moor and we're going to discover the story behind everything that is all around this wonderful part of the world. So, without further ado, I think it's time that I shut up and we got walking as we once again go walking the moors. Just see the foxgloves up, peeking over the top of the hill. I love those. They used to be around our pond that we used to have in the house where I grew up, about an hour from here, as I said, when we were starting off on the walk. But yes, we're off. And it's warm, let me tell you. It's warmer than I thought. I actually came with a long sleeve top as well, just in case I got it wrong, but my goodness. But yeah, one of the things that I love about this part of the moors is the woodland. There seems to be loads of it. And when I was young, it just cried out to me as a place to be explored. Today, it's wonderful to see that, as far as I remember it, none of it seems to have disappeared. I think it's fair to say the world can be a pretty depressing place at times, but I think that is an unbelievable positive. Who would have thought it? That forests and woodlands are actually on the way up in England. And the Forestry Commission don't plan to stop there either. The plan is that by 2060 they want to surpass the levels of 1,000 years ago, and hopefully they'll carry on even more after that. Now, if you're liking what you see around here so far, you can actually come and stay here. And when I say stay here, I really do mean here, because just up ahead is what looks like the most gorgeous bed and breakfast that I've ever seen. My goodness. It does look like a gorgeous place to stay, doesn't it? The bed and breakfast just back there, we just come past. The owner actually, she also runs photography courses, and it's not difficult to see why, because we're just literally surrounded by stunning sights. It's reminding me so much of my youth, this walk. I can't begin to tell you. I'm crying out to go and climb a tree or build a den, and you have to wonder if the stunning sights are what brought the monks here. Now, we're going to be discovering a little bit of Byland Abbey's story later on in the walk, but this actually, it's a hotbed of activity when it comes to monasteries, because whilst Byland Abbey, which is a couple of miles in that direction, which we'll get to later on today, is in ruin, Ampleforth Abbey, which is about 2 miles that way, so it's slightly off our walk today, sadly, is not a ruin. It's actually still a working monastery, and it's also a very successful school. Its existence, would you believe, actually inspired a TV programme, and I think you might just have heard of it. It's my favourite thing. You may have caught this on previous walks, but the different combinations of styles that you see, and this one looks like a cracker. My goodness, there's a little bridge. So can he do it? Up and over, mind the holly. There's always more of a bend on the wood than you would like. Across the beck, under the bush. It's like Jurassic Park down here. I think I'm going to get stung. Not by bees, by the many stinging nettles which appear. Oh! Yes. Made it to the other side. We totally made it. Goodness me, not one car. We started our walk today up fairly high. We're now going to begin our descent down to Byland Abbey. I've got to say, I'm really looking forward to seeing it appear on the horizon. And there's something really special, I think, about walking through any countryside, because things open up before you like a book. They gradually appear. And that's actually the whole sort of point behind the spectacular abbeys. When they were built, most people lived in fairly humble accommodation, and in fact the majority of the population of the country would have lived in a single room, probably mud and straw walls, one roof over the top, maybe have some animals in with them as well. So they lived in very humble, well, it was a humble life, a very humble life. The point of the spectacular abbey was God's house was supposed to be stunning and inspirational, and that's what these monks aspired to build. And as we'll see later on in our walk, they most certainly achieved their goal. But that is to enjoy later on, because before that I'm going to enjoy some serious walking. We're actually following exactly the boundary between the North York Moors National Park and North Yorkshire. So if I step over here, I'm in the North York Moors National Park, and if I step over here, I'm out of the North York Moors National Park and I'm in North Yorkshire. I bet you it costs a lot more money to have a house over here than it does over there. You wonder, don't you? Who works out the boundary? Crazy. Anyone who knows me well will know that discovering that we're walking on Corallian limestone is going to make me very happy. Why, you may ask? Well, Corallian sounds an awful lot like Carillion, and that is of course what Han Solo was from Star Wars. He was a Carillion because he was from the planet Corellia. It's just one letter difference, isn't it? You've got to wonder, did Corallian limestone inspire the planet of Corellia? I'd love to know. I'll tell you this, folks, I didn't anticipate finding a link to that scruffy looking nerf herder on today's trail. Grange lies just behind that hill there, and that was actually the first ripple in the landscape that hints at the majesty to come later on today's walk when we finally get to Byland Abbey, because Grange was actually built by the same people who built Byland Abbey, because that was originally used to store the grain which fed the abbey and the surrounding community. Today, it's a working farm, but it's actually more than a working farm because it's also what's called a hatchery. Now, I'm 45 years old, and I've never heard of a hatchery before in my life. It transpires that a hatchery is a place that hatches eggs. I suppose it makes sense if you think about it. You can get fish ones and you can get bird ones. Wasgrange is all about the birds. I've actually been looking at their Facebook page, and on the 15th of June they posted the most gorgeous pictures of two just lovely Shetland ducks. Amazing. But as I said, that means we're getting close to Byland Abbey, and before I get completely lost, I think it's time I check my map. So you guys head off for some soup and a sandwich and a little rest, and I'll see you later on in the show for more Walking the Moors. Now that's what I call walking. It's like a new album. I wonder what song did they on Now That's What I Call Walking.
I miss those albums.
Maybe they still do.
I had like the first one of that. Now That's What I Call Music. One, I'm sure I had. I remember taking one of the early ones to a school disco, and it was a double album. It was a record. You know, and it was like, I remember it folded open like that double album. Can't remember what number it was, but it would have been in the 80s sometime. Brilliant.
Amazing. I mean, it's funny that you talk about the 80s, because that's exactly the time when I would have been there with my brothers. Never in the countryside we've just been walking through. We were always very much focused on Byland Abbey itself, which, of course, we're going to get to later on in the walk. But it's fascinating to think that in a 5-mile radius, you've got Ampleforth, you've got Byland, you've got Stanbrook Abbey, with the nuns, and you've also got Newburgh Priory.
Right.
And mentioning Stanbrook Abbey, Kay became quite fascinated.
Yeah, because Stanbrook Abbey, the original abbey where the nuns lived and worked, they sold. Because it became too busy for them, didn't it? It's in, I Google Earthed it. I love Google Earth. I Google Earthed it, and it is in like a little town, slap bang in the middle. So they wanted somewhere a bit more rural, a bit more peaceful. So they sold it to a hotel chain, and it's now a hotel. The original Stanbrook Abbey looks amazing. I mean, it's, beautiful old abbey. But with the proceeds of that, they bought some land and they built a new one, and it's very modern looking.
Yeah.
Very modern looking, but it is in the middle. It's very close by. It's not really that far away, but it is. It's surrounded by woodland and just looks amazing. Yeah. It's
just actually on the other side of a village that we're going to visit in the second part of the walk. It's the other side of West.
I'd love to go and stay in an abbey and, for like a week or something, and just experience what it's like for the nuns. I just think that would be so interesting.
It would be like Sister Act, but for real.
Well, maybe not.
Or Nuns on the Run with Eric Idle and Robbie Coltrane.
Maybe not. But it would. I think it just would be such an amazing experience, leave your phones and your devices and everything at home and just go and live like they live for, a week, 2 weeks. Yeah. I think it would just be an amazing thing.
Very calming.
Yeah.
Folks, when we come back later on in the show, we're going to be getting to Byland Abbey and taking a look at it in a way which we never have done before, all thanks to Kevin. But like I said, that's to come later on, because now it's time for us to find out. Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
I do have some things.
Ooh.
I've finished 2 things.
Amazing.
And they are both Knitty You designs. So the Knitty You has started again. We began this week on Tuesday. So do they go out once or twice a week?
They pretty much go out consecutively till the end of the course. But, it's this month.
The Glimmer Mitts are the first pattern that are underway now with the Knitty You. And it's these lovely mitts. I showed these before when I'd finished one and I was working on the second. So these are all done now. And I just love them. These will probably go to Bryony because she loves fingerless mitts. And she tried these on and went, ooh, these are nice. So these will probably go to her. And this, I'll take them off and then I can show you the sort of how it works. So we've got a little picot cuff, top and bottom. Then we've got some moss stitch, some beading, and then we've got this really easy to work little thumb slot, and it just makes the whole thing, it just simplifies the whole thing for fingerless mitts, because the only thing really sort of complicated it in a pair of fingerless mitts is the thumb gusset and sorting all that out. So if you take that out and just pop in a thumb slot, it's so easy and simple and quick. But what it allows you to do is then to focus more on, you know, some pretty details. So that's what I did with the beading and the picot. And I think they just look really nice and really practical. You know, I don't really make things that aren't going to be used and I don't see as being useful or practical. I'll always, you know, I kind of don't see the point in making something if it's not going to be used. But these I can see, you know, even if you're in a hot country, I know that a lot of people in a hot country will often work in an environment that's air conditioned, and it can get quite cool in an air conditioned office. So, you know, if you're typing away all day, brilliant. Your hands, you know, your fingers are free and your rest of your hand is still keeping warm. So the glimmer mitts I knit up using a skein of yarn from Life in the Long Grass. I love her yarns, really lovely. And it's her fine sock, which is a 75/25, and it's in Glimmer, it's the colourway, so I stole that name and used it for the mitts because it's just perfect. My whole pair weighed just under 40 grams.
Wow.
I know. So brilliant, you know, so I've got 60 grams of yarn left. Enough for a pair of socks, definitely, if you use contrast heels and toes. Enough for a pair of socks. So it's a brilliant little project, and I hope all of you who have gathered, you know, I think you'll just be gathering all of your supplies now and getting ready to cast on.
I think they'll cast on by now.
Oh, well, you've cast on by now,
Yeah.
Brilliant. So I hope you're enjoying it.
So yeah, the first two parts of this
Right.
course have gone out.
Okay.
So each month it's a different course. This month there's 3 courses in total.
Yeah.
This month starting with the glimmer mitts.
Yeah.
They've just got the cast on and they've just got the pattern.
Right, okay. So yeah, what I do is that when we cast on, the PDF for the complete pattern will go out with that cast on. So you will have the pattern and you will have cast these on now. Can't wait to see what yarns you've chosen. And just such a brilliant little thing, you know, quick and interesting. You're learning some new techniques. You might not have done the picot before. You might not have done beading. You could well not have done the thumb slot as well. So a lovely little project. So that's the first thing I finished. And then the second thing is actually the second design in the Knit to You.
So it's the August course.
This is the course for August, and these are the Cozy Reading Socks. And again, I think I showed you these when I was knitting one of them, I think. I can't remember how far along I was. But these are a finished pair now.
Those are fuzzy socks.
They're very fuzzy. Can you see can you see how fuzzy? Ooh. So if I hold them like that, you can see the fuzziness. So for these, I used a DK weight yarn plus a mohair silk held together. So the DK weight yarn that I used was this lovely yarn. I would really recommend it. So it's Sirdar Snuggly Cashmere Merino Silk DK. And you get, they come in 50 gram balls and you get 116 metres. It's a 75 extra fine merino, 20% silk, 5% cashmere. And it's gorgeous. And I used these 2 colours. So I used, the main colour is this lovely mushroomy sort of colour, which is Enchanted Castle. And then the cream is Snow Queen. And then I held it together with just an undyed merino, mohair silk. And they're just lovely. I'll take one off just so that I'll just hold up one of them to show you. So they're cuffed down, but then we've got this lovely heel, which I sort of created. It's based on a technique that is openly out there in the world, but I took that technique and then I've adjusted it quite a lot to make it suit me better, and to be really nice and neat in the corners. I came up with a technique myself for closing those corners off really neatly. And all of this is in the course. You know, we go through in quite a lot of detail exactly how to do all of it. So this lovely sort of bobbly texture, and then the heel, and we do the cast on as well, and I do a little thing on the cast on to make it nice and neat, and the toe and weaving in and everything. The whole thing is covered in the course. So the cosy reading socks are the August Knitty You.
Lovely. Perfect.
Yeah.
And I can just imagine you sat with those on at Christmas.
With a lovely book, yeah. Yes. I'm going to save these actually, and Bryony tried one on and she loved them.
All right. Okay.
But she will have forgotten about it. That was a while ago. I only gave her one to try on. So I'm going to stash these away, and I'm making an advent calendar for Bryony this year. I really like, you know, handmade, everything in it, handmade kind of thing. And these will be one of the advent calendar things. Yeah.
Right, it's time for us to get back to the North York Moors National Park as we continue our wonderful walk in search of the gorgeous Byland Abbey. Welcome back to Walking the Moors. We're continuing along our trail, tracing that line of the boundary between the North York Moors National Park and North Yorkshire. We're about to turn north actually. We're about to leave this part of the trail and head towards Byland Abbey, and we're walking straight into a landscape that 35 years ago you might just have seen me and my brothers playing hide and seek. It didn't always look like this around here though. My goodness. In 1155 AD, this was a huge marshland. All the rivers and becks, many of which we've seen today already on our walk, were flowing down off the moor and were absolutely flooding this part of the world. And it really made it quite an unpleasant place. And it was perhaps for that reason that this land was given to Abbot Roger and his Cistercian monks. And so it was then that Abbot Roger and his Cistercian monks started to build Byland Abbey. To do that though, they needed stone. And to get stone, you need a quarry. And would you believe it, that one of the quarries that those Cistercian monks used to build Byland Abbey, it's still around here somewhere. We're going to find it. My goodness. Suddenly there before me, it sort of comes at you out of nowhere, because now of course it's just an earthwork because it's not been used in 800 years, it's all been filled in. But there it is, a medieval quarry. And in the case of Byland Abbey, that build was impressive, to say the least. We're walking straight down the nave of Byland Abbey Church, and whilst it might be difficult to imagine what it would have looked like when it was in its heyday, this reconstruction might help you a little bit. Byland Abbey is full of some absolutely tantalising sights, but I'm going to take you to one of my favourites. Whilst we're walking on grass today, in 1250 AD, the floor would have been extremely different to what we see, because covered across the floor of the whole church were some gorgeous, brightly coloured mosaics. And would you believe that some 600-700 years later are still in situ, and they're here in the south transept. There's one more stunning sight to see before we leave Byland Abbey, and it's the thing which really drew us here today, because had this great rose window not been here, then my mum would never have sat wherever it was and drew it, and perhaps today we wouldn't be here for our gorgeous walk. And what a stunning sight it is. My goodness, can you imagine finding the stone carved plan for the window? That would have been an amazing day, wouldn't it, at the office? That's the type of tangible link to the past that I just adore. Something that you can just touch, and it sort of links you to the people who built this wonderful place. But Byland Abbey lies behind us now, because there's still a few things to see on this gorgeous walk in the moors. We're still within the Abbey grounds, so this essentially is still part of Byland Abbey. And that house behind me is called Abbey House. But it's a bit of a mystery. I can't really find very much in the history books about it. All we know is this: it was built at the same time as Byland Abbey. But when the Abbey was demolished, dissolved by Henry VIII in the 16th century, that was a house. So it could be sold and lived in, and that's exactly what they would have done. And it's still actually lived in to this day. This is actually my first time walking through Wales. I've driven through here hundreds of times in my life, and I've never really stopped and taken it all in, and I've got to say, it's absolutely beautiful. It's a very picturesque place. Some people call it the gateway to the North Yorkshire moors, and I think that's pretty perfectly named, to be honest. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back among the gorgeous grasses and the fluttering birds, and our walk is nearly over. I can't believe it, but what a walk it's been. In 1155 AD,
A group of Cistercian monks arrived here and they turned a barren marsh into a stunning monastery. They then set out to build a community that would inspire. Nearly 800 years later, and whilst that monastery may be long gone, the community that they set up still is here and it's thriving and surviving. The monastery may be gone, but my goodness, this part of the world and the monastery itself, even though it's in a ruin, continues to inspire all who come and visit here. Because without that visit of my mum's 65 years ago approximately, perhaps we wouldn't be here today. And I've got to tell you, this is a walk I'm never going to forget. It's been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for joining me on this wonderful walk, and I'll see you next time when we'll once again be walking the Dales.
Well, what a walk. Oh my goodness. I couldn't believe that we haven't been there for 6 years.
Is it really?
It's just shocking how time flies.
Bryony doesn't remember it, so I knew it must have been quite a while ago.
It's the most wonderful place, and what I love about what we've just done, and actually what I love about this series, is at certain points in the series we've gone to places which I've had a certain amount of knowledge of, and ventured out into the surrounding countryside, and what that enables you to do is just get a much better understanding of how the place that you knew sits within the geography of the countryside, and you just feel like you've embedded it in your sort of psyche a little bit more, and you understand it more, and you know it takes a place which you value and it even raises it up even higher. I just loved it. It was
I loved it too,
and just so sort of wonderful seeing it, like I mentioned in the show, seeing it gradually appear on the horizon. That point as you come away from the quarry and then there it sort of spreads out before you. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, and I remember the atmosphere of being there as well. It's a lovely place. It's got a lovely atmosphere.
Byland has the best atmosphere out of the 3 ruined monasteries that are very close together. So that's Revo. Revo has a very odd atmosphere.
Yeah,
we said when we came away from there.
I don't feel it at Revo for some reason. I don't know what it is.
Well, I'm telling you.
I don't love it there.
It's going to be a reflection of things that have gone on in the place. So Revo, not the best atmosphere. It's a great place to visit.
It is very interesting,
but a weird atmosphere.
I just don't love it there. Yeah.
Fountains, very nice.
Yeah.
But Byland always is just like a...
I think the difference between, for example, Fountains and Byland is Fountains is very touristy.
Yes.
You know, I don't think we've ever been in it not be busy.
No. And Byland is not.
And Byland is not. So that's going to also impact on how you feel about the atmosphere when you're there. But I mean, Fountains, I really love Fountains, and it's always busy.
It's wonderful.
It's wonderful. It's always busy, but I always love it. But, you know, Revo, we've been a couple of times, haven't we? And just never wanted really to go back.
My prediction is that Byland, when it was up and running, would have been the loveliest place to be. Because I stand by the fact that...
it's the setting as well. It's their place in the landscape.
Yeah.
Revo's kind of like in a valley, isn't it?
Yeah.
Down low.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it feels a bit sort of oppressive maybe for me.
It's no distance from Byland, really.
No.
It's really, really close.
Yeah.
I tried to plan a walk that took them both in, but...
It was far. Yeah.
It was just a little bit too far, and there was a bit too much of a climb. There's no walk next episode, but fear not, because Kay returns with another gorgeous My Favourite Colourways. And then, of course, the episode after that will be back in the Dales. Folks, I can't believe it. It's time for the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
Oh my goodness. The jelly roll Cowl continues.
Yeah, jelly roll knitting is still going on until the end of August. So, you know, if you want to join in with that, then there's a thread open in our Ravelry group where you can chatter and you can post photos of your works in progress. If you want to post on Instagram, then you can use the hashtag jellyrollblanket. there's lots, I see them all the time on Instagram, people knitting up their blankets, which is just fantastic. And we will draw for prizes for that, early September when that finishes. I've got lots of lovely prizes, but it's just been wonderful to see all of your jelly rolls going on, and even people that are in really hot climates at the moment. I know it's really hot in America, I think, in some parts at the moment, are still jelly rolling. So I think that's just brilliant.
The latest issue of Knitability is out now. It's literally just come out, and it is an absolute cracker.
Yeah. Stunning front cover, absolutely beautiful woman on the front cover, and I didn't know what she looked like.
It's the gorgeous designer Lavanya Petrocella, and she's interviewed.
She should be a model. She's so beautiful. And
her designs are also gorgeous. And it was just a wonderful interview. And, hats off to our amazing editor, Jen and Lavanya, for coming together and creating such a great interview, but also a great front cover. But there's also an interview with Ducky Darlings.
Yes.
There's an article from Kay and a recipe for our perfect picnics. Because the focus of this issue, it's all about the picnics, because it's summer and perfect time for a picnic. I reminisce about the picnics of my youth.
Yeah.
There's all the usual articles in there, so there's 2 patron articles as well. And speaking of patrons, if you're wondering how you get access to the magazine, all you need to do is sign up as a bronze Bakery Bear patron. That's the equivalent of $2, and you can download that edition of Knitability immediately, completely free.
Yeah.
And also at the bronze level, you also get access to our patron only show as well at the end of the month.
Yeah.
So don't miss that if you sign up and get access to that magazine. You bought some? No, you haven't.
No, I haven't bought something.
You've dyed some things.
I dyed a couple of things to go with something that I think I showed you last time. Can you remember? I pulled this off my shelf, the hedgerow yarns, the fairy lights. And I've just had it on my desk ever since. I just love it so much. I really want to do something with it. But I wanted some yarns to go with it. So I looked through my stash and I did find one that will definitely go with it. I wanted something in the same base, and it's like a 2-ply 80/20, and I found this yellow that I dyed up. I can't remember what it was for, but I dyed this up a while ago, and I thought, well, that's the same base and it picks up with some of the yellow that's in there. But I wanted 2 other colours, so I dyed up these. Now you might have to put your sunglasses on for these. I dyed up these 2. Look at the pink. Oh my word. So the pink picks up on obviously the pink speckles in there, and then this lovely blue picks up on the blue. Isn't it funny how holding a colour changes the colour of the main skein? I think it looks a lot different when I hold the blue as to when I hold the pink. I think that's really interesting. So yeah, I dyed these 2 up, and I didn't use a single dye colour for these, so I mixed some dyes to make these. I just wanted something really bright, so these will go with the yellow. I mean, look at that. And then the main skein, I'm going to use all these together. I think it's just going to be so fun.
Great.
Yes.
Love it.
Ooh.
Did you hear our last radio show? We were talking about memories. Came out last week. The power of memories to do good, but also the power of memories sometimes to do evil. That came out last week, and the radio show, weather permitting, will be back next week. And I thought it would be fun, as we're getting into summer holiday season, to talk about our best and our worst ever holidays.
Okay.
Does that sound... I've just sprung this on, Kay.
No, we can do that. That sounds
Is that
good.
cool?
Yeah.
I thought that might be quite fun.
No, it's good you've told me now, because I can have a bit of thinking time.
Have you had, like, a really bad summer holiday that you can recall?
I've had bits of summer holidays be bad.
Well, that's fine. That's fine.
I have a recurring problem with summer holidays, which I could talk about.
Yeah. Save for the show.
Yeah.
So that'll come out, as I say, weather permitting, next week. I just must mention, actually, just talking about sort of... I don't know why it suddenly made me think of this. I had a dream. I'm not sure if it was last night or the night before, but it was to do with my sideburns.
Your sideburns.
Yeah. I dreamt it was like this, Kay. It was like completely across.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do?
Yeah,
For those of you who saw the show a couple of...
shows ago, Dan shaved off one of his sideburns.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Well, I trimmed down my eyebrows, didn't I? I've been banned from doing that now.
Yeah, you can't do your eyebrows either because he
need
virtually like shaves his eyebrows off. So I have to do everything now.
I'll draw them in. Folks, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that walk. I absolutely loved it.
Thanks,
I've even got the
everybody.
battle scars to prove it.
I know,
Hopefully they'll be
they've
done.
kind of stopped itching now, haven't they? The
Yes,
bites. So
yes.
it's like putting cream on him and
Yes.
everything, and cold flannels, and oh gosh.
No worries though next time, because Kay will be dyeing another gorgeous skein of yarn.
Yes.
I can't wait for that. So thank you so much for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks for a brand new Bakery Bears video show.
See you soon.
Bye.
Sitting and knitting, it's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern and get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what